Hey, welcome to part two of a two-part series, Unsolicited Advice with Phil. The purpose of this portion or this episode is to talk about how I chose the career path that I chose and what drove me to join the military, and I guess how everything manifested that grew from my lessons learned early on from my childhood. And without going too much into I always feel silly when I talk about my growing up because I you know I don't have a Pollyannish perspective, or I can't I don't have a rose colored veneer, or a it was just rough growing up in the city early on. So I was there all the way up until I was what 8, 9, and then we moved to the suburbs. What I remember the most is seeing a lot of crime. I remember seeing a lot of unscrupulous people, a lot of shadiness, a lot of homelessness, and people that just looked beat down. And A lot of my friends introduced me to things at a very early age that I had no business knowing about, and you know, uh, that did make an indelible impression on me. And as I became older and I look back, I know that if we would have stayed in that area, I don't think it would have been good for me long term, uh, to put it lightly. So adversity does build character. Definitely, we didn't have a lot of money. I remember jelly and crackers. I remember corduroys. I remember not getting a haircut for months. I remember having a fro. And my mother, bless her, but I looked like one of the monkeys. So there's that. Getting picked on. I remember getting bullied. Um, and Those are all things that I look back on, and I wouldn't have it any other way because it taught me a lot at a young age. Um, so we moved to the western suburbs of Chicago, and that was the best thing that could have happened, because I saw what happened to my brothers and sisters. I was the youngest of five, and they were very close in age. They were in their teens or just out of being a teenager. And I saw the people that they ran with and the people they hung around. And again, just like I said previous to this, show me the five people you hang out with the most, and I'll show you your future. And the folks that my brothers and my sisters were hanging around were influencing them, whether they wanted to admit it or not. They were not doing well in any facet in their life. They didn't have it together. And that's a big shame, because they were capable. My brother, he started introducing, well, his friends started introducing some gateway drugs, and his mental state was altered, and he had schizophrenia before you know it. And this might sound funny, but sure enough, he's talking to Jesus in our room that we shared, and I'm on the top bunk and I'm listening to him, terrified. So I saw that at a young age, and I saw what drug addiction did. I saw one of my brothers lie, cheat, steal from his own family, steal from his own mother, steal money out of her purse, because he needed his fix. Things that he normally would have never done. So that was something, again, you can learn lessons from other people in your life. You don't have to make your own mistakes all the time. And I think that's a flummoxing purview or stance, or concept to try and defend. It doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, I learned from them, and what not to do and what road not to go down, and the folks that I should probably try to avoid. So anyway, there was that. Moved out, got to the burbs, and once I got past like the culture shock and all that, I was okay, but I was behind in school. So school was a struggle for me, and not to mention super ADD. So I'm thinking about, this is the story of a girl, and I'm like tapping my legs, shaking my leg, can't concentrate. So I was behind a lot early on. By the time I got to high school, um, I was starting to figure it out. I had caught up with everybody, and I was doing better. But I still wasn't getting, I was not getting the grades that I needed to get ahead. And by ahead, I mean a partial full ride scholarship, like some of my classmates and some of my friends. And that lit a fire under my butt too, because I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to be a dock worker? Is that my lot in life? Can I do more? Do I want to challenge myself more? I do. So now what? And this is where we get into choosing the military and the career path, and why I came to that decision early on. First of all, if you have kids that are thinking about joining the military, and I'm in the Navy, active duty, been in over 20 years, so I can talk about the Navy because I've experienced there. But I've also been to 4 different combatant commands. I'm very joint. I have a lot of friends that are joint military in some of the sister services. So the reason why I think the military is the best decision is just the post 9/11 MGI Bill, just having that alone is amazing. So you can look it up, but you can do a 2-year enlistment in some branches. I know the Space Force had it for a while, and you can get up to 80% of your post 9/11 GI Bill. What's the post 9/11 GI Bill? Google it, or DuckDuckGo it, or whatever search engine you want to use. But you'll see that essentially you're getting paid to go to school, which to me is unheard of. It's preposterous because that does not exist outside of the military. You tell me where's that program? I mean, there's a student loan aid, and there's some programs, but not like that. You're not getting E5 BAH, to go to school where you can pocket all of that. It's crazy. So I used the Montgomery GI Bill to pay for my bachelor's, and then I had enough to switch over to the post 9/11 GI Bill because I had 6 months left of the Montgomery, so I switched over to the post 9/11 GI Bill. That paid for my master's. So I got my bachelor's from Hawaii Pacific University. While both of these I got while I was in the military, so I was doing night classes, online courses, all that on top of my regular day job. And it really wasn't hard. It wasn't. It's not hard to do the extra, and just do a little bit above and beyond, just a little bit, and eventually these little steps, like I said, they turn into knocking out goals, and then eventually, if you knock out enough goals, you're knocking out dreams, and that's very fulfilling to me to see. And I would mark off. I would have my goals on, I would write them down, I'd type them out. And each time I'd pass a course, then I'd have the whole matrix in front of me of what I needed to accomplish to get, my bachelor's or my associates. In each class, I would line out, and it was so gratifying and cathartic to do it with a red pen, each one, or I'd have the list, and that's kind of how I attack those things. But I got my master's from the Pennsylvania State University. My bachelor's in diplomacy and military studies, my master's in homeland security, and I did that while I had a full-time job each time, and I had plenty of time for it too. It wasn't a struggle, but I also wasn't married. I waited a long time to have kids, and that helped too, because I got to focus on getting myself where I wanted to be. So back to why the military is awesome. Well, for one, post 9/11 GI Bill is pretty awesome. You get that BAH, you can pocket it all and go to school. And you can also, what's great about that is you can get such a head start. You can get such a head start on life. If you join the military at 17 years old with a waiver, and by the way, if your kid wants to join the military, especially if it's a Space Force or Air Force or Navy, any of the branches really, but specifically Air Force and Space Force, and I'll say the Navy too, um, there are jobs and career paths that your kid can go down that's going to pay dividends in the long run. Trust. So and not only that, like I said, sign that waiver. At 17, he can retire at 37 years old. Now, if you're watching this and you're a kid about to graduate high school, or trying to figure out what your lot in life is going to be, or what trajectory and what you want to do with your life, you might think that's old, but it's really not. And once you get there, woo, that flew by. Trust me. And having the option to retire, and we're not talking about a small pension. It's sizable. Like it will pay for your mortgage, right? Within reason, right? So that is another point. And it's not, look, you're around enough people. I remember I was around when I was struggling to figure out what I wanted to do with my life after high school, community college, and doing prereq courses, and also working at a factory. I saw some people that were just downtrodden, and bless them. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm not knocking anyone for, look, it could have easily happened to me. I didn't have any mentors that I could go to, which was my fault. When it comes down to it, very prideful at a young age. But I should have had mentors that I was going to. I should have found people that I looked up to, or had the work ethic that I strive to have, or and been asking questions, which is why it's very important to me right now to give back and try to help people. That's very fulfilling for me, because I realize, and I know how I felt when I was young, when I was 17, 18, 19, and trying to struggling to figure out what I was going to do. And that is what the military will do for you. It gives you structure. It gives you a way, ends, and a means. There's something called tuition assistance program. Getting back to the academia, you can get TAP, and it'll pay for 100% of your tuition and your costs, including books. There's other organizations that do that. There's other programs, but it's not as rigidly structured, and rigidly in this connotation is positive. Like there's a rubric, and it's easy. Fill out the paper. It's almost guaranteed you're gonna get, and it paid for a lot of my courses, and I didn't even have to dip into my Montgomery GI Bill. So you get your TAP, your tuition assistance program, and you start knocking out those prereqs while you're in the military. What's important there is I'm going to emphasize and underscore and highlight while you're in the military. So you can knock out your associates, you can knock out your bachelors, you can knock out your masters, and while you're making rank. Honestly, I could afford whatever I needed and wanted as an E5. As an E3, I had an apartment in Hawaii. E3 going on E4. I had an apartment in Hawaii, in Pearl Ridge. And it was nice too, because you get BAH. It teaches you how to manage. You teach yourself in a way, but it gives you the opportunity to manage your finances. And now you get BAH. Now you have enough money to live out in town. All right, what am I going to do? Am I going to roommate with someone? Maybe the wisest thing you can do is roommate with someone that's on an opposite rotation than you for deployments. So if you find somebody who's going to deploy, and then that person comes back, and then you go, hey, essentially you're both paying for an apartment, so you're splitting it down the middle. But when that person's gone, the way I had it when I was an ensign, I had a roommate, and we split it, and it was a 2-bedroom. So when he was gone, it was like, all right, well, yeah, I'll take care of your stuff. We'll just, every once in a while, I'll use your room, and you can use mine when I'm gone on deployment. No big deal. So your family can visit, or whatever, your friends could visit. And that's how we had it. But the whole time, I'm paying for my side, but I had the whole apartment because he was deployed, and then vice versa for him. So it was a mutually beneficial thing. Anyway, those are the kind of things that you can do to save money, and also I would highly recommend that you think about doing those things. But getting back to that was a tangent. Sorry. Getting back to the military and the education and knocking out your bachelor, your associates, bachelors, masters. If you do 4 years in the military, you definitely, depending on your op tempo and your work schedule, you definitely can knock out a bachelor's. If you stay in long enough to get shore duty, is what we call it in the Navy. So you do your operational tour, which is usually sea duty when you're on a ship, which it's not impossible to get tons of courses knocked out and be well on your way to an associate's at least. There's duty days, and if you're in the military, particularly the Navy, the duty days on the ship, you're not doing much outside of stand and watch. Once you're done with your watch, you can go back to online and start knocking out these courses. Eventually, it's going to add up to a degree. So that's number one. Number two, the other point I want to make and emphasize is the skills that they teach you through your MOS, is what they call it in other services. In the Navy, we call it your rate. So I was undesignated when I joined the military, and that's a long story, but essentially I didn't have the wisdom to ask somebody, find somebody, reach out, go on AOL at the time and go to a chat room and find somebody who was a veteran or who had been in the Navy so I can pick their brain. I just trusted the recruiter, who unfortunately wasn't the most upfront. And I won't say that he manipulated, but he wasn't forthcoming with a lot of information, and that's okay because it all worked out for me. I wouldn't have it any other way. But essentially, I had a really dangerous job, chalking and chaining on the flight deck, and it made me realize that, again, it was just like, well, how did I get here, and why am I bitter when it's my fault? That personal accountability is really important to me, because I'm the one making the choices here. It's you're responsible for how you act, how you behave, and what choices you make. And I didn't make the choice to find somebody and ask them. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Give me your recruiter's number. Let me talk to him, because I don't think he's steering you right. But anyway, I did that for 3 years. I was a lot of FTN coming out of my mouth. Wasn't really happy with the service, and that happens to a lot of kids, which is why I'm making this. If you're thinking about joining the military, I don't care. Reach out to me. Message me on LinkedIn. I don't care. If you have kids that are thinking about joining the Navy or the service, talk to me. I'll tell them straight what happened to me and what you can do to avoid any of the mistakes that I made. But joining the military is not a mistake. It's not even a mistake if you have the worst job or the quote unquote, unskilled job or whatever. If you're a deck seaman or, you still get out ahead because you still have all this, training and you still know how to show up to work on time, and there's policies and structure and regulation, and you have to abide by them. And you'll meet people. This drives me crazy when you meet people that are like, man, I thought about joining the military, but I just can't take orders from people. Like, you take orders every single day, and you just don't realize it. You are that prideful that you can't say yes sir, yes ma'am? Really? Look at the benefits. Look at how this could positively impact your life long term. Talk to somebody that's trying to retire as a truck driver after being in 20 years. Talk to somebody who's in law enforcement that's been hanging around year 18, 19, that's jaded, that's trying not to get fired. Talk to somebody who's been fired in year 19 for something that's made up, that didn't happen, or and they just were on the chopping block because that company didn't want to pay for his pension and saw that the medical costs and all that. And, oh, by the way, speaking of medical, name an institution that gives you free medical in retirement. Free medical while you're in. And you laugh if you're in the military because you'd be like, well, yeah, well, it's subpar. But it's not. It's not subpar. Like my family goes, if there's an emergency, we can go to any hospital, any emergency room. We're going to be covered for the most part. And that's an amazing thing. That's a blessing. Um, and it's a byproduct of making the decision to serve and join and be a patriot and give back a little bit. But also get what you want to get out of the military. I certainly have. I made sure to find a job after being undesignated. I made sure that I was going to get the skill set needed to make money when I get out. Be valuable, be an asset, get the schools, get the certifications, get the training. Go back to the Naval War College. Look at job ads. That's one thing that I wanted to talk about. Look at job ads and look at the wickets. Look at the requirements. Look at the advanced requirements. Use that as a rubric. Use that as a way to check off what you need to get done while you're in the military to land the job that you want. Plan things out. Plan it out. Don't just say I have a goal of doing this. Say it out loud and then not understand fully how to get there. That's one thing that I made a mistake of doing early on. I would have these goals, but I wouldn't take the time to learn what I needed to actually do to accomplish those goals. And that's something that was you just learn over time. So that's why I talk about these things. I want to make sure I'm covering I know that's getting elongated here. I want to make sure I was covering everything I wanted to cover regarding the military. Basically, to summarize and wrap this bad boy up, it's retirement at 20 years, guaranteed. And now they have other retirement plans that you can do. It escapes me, but that's an easy DuckDuckGo Google search. What your retirement options are. You don't have to do a full 20. You can do like 14 years and then get out. It's not going to be a max retirement, but it's going to be something. And something is way better than nothing. So you get that, and I'm not talking. It's not anything to scoff at. The retirement for the military. It's pretty darn good. Not to mention all the benefits you get as a veteran. Use the military as much as it's going to get you, or use you. You use it to accomplish the goals you want, and use it to prepare yourself for what you're really going to do in life when you get out or when you retire. And be smart and be cognizant about what your end state is and what your personal goals are and how you're going to achieve them using the military. Be opportunistic. Pay attention to the policies. Pay attention to how you can maximize and optimize the benefits of being in the military, active duty while you're in, and not wait for when you get out. If you can knock out some things, if you can get your bachelor's before you get out, you could be like me and get your bachelor's and be like, that pay chart as a commissioned officer looks mighty enticing, and make a decision to stay in and commission. And here I am 20 years later. It happens all the time. You might be FTN one day and singing, Anchors Away, and singing a whole different tune 3 years later. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to impart some of the shared knowledge that I've accumulated in my time. And if I can help in any way, that's why I'm making these videos. I just want to pay it back and give. So if you have kids that are thinking about joining the military, make sure you tell them, do your homework, do your research. There's a litany of tools that you can use online. There's all kinds of chat rooms and plethora organizations and folks that you can talk to about it, but really have someone that will give it to you straight, and make sure you have everything in writing, and you're looking at all minding your P's and Q's, and dotting the I's and crossing those T's, because it's really important that you pay attention to the opportunities that exist and how you can position yourself to use those. That's a precursor for life, and that's something that it took me a little while to learn, but once it clicked, there's no going back. I've maximized the opportunities that the military has given me. I've lived in San Diego, I've lived in Hawaii, I've lived in Miami, I live in Colorado Springs. I've gone to 4 different combatant commands. I've traveled the world. I've worked at an embassy at one time. I've had really cool mission sets, and I've met so many different people from so many different walks of life, and I value the interactions, and I've learned from them, each and every one of them. And, I have an extended family. I have an extended network, and I continue to build that. And that's what really that maximizes my fulfillment and my happiness. And I think it's really important that I underscore and note that it's because of the military that I'm where I'm at, and I don't know where I'd be at without the military. I don't know. So I know for certain I wouldn't be where I'm at. I know for certain I would have never had the opportunity to live in all these great locations. I know for certain I wouldn't have the opportunity to live in Colorado Springs and work at Northcom and Space Command, and have over 40 some odd certifications and courses and advanced, intermediate, and basic intelligence courses that will and the education, and that will set me up for success later. I know for certain I wouldn't have any of that without the Navy. So say what you want that's negative about the military. There are some negative aspects, and let's be real, you will be away. If you have a family and you're at an operational command, you will be away from them, which is why I highly recommend you don't get married too young. You don't have kids too young. It just makes it a little bit more difficult. Now I understand things happen, and sometimes it's like, well, it's nice to say, but I'm in a situation, and that's okay. Guess what? You're gonna be fine. Just continue to grind, continue to get to where you want to get, and stop taking those days off. Get the hell off your phone. Stop swiping. Stop wasting your time. Don't waste it. Let me canvass my notes, see if I forgot anything or if I'm missing anything. I'm sure I am. Please feel free to opine and give me feedback and comments and reclamas, and I want meaningful discussion on how the military has benefited. If you have a really neat story, or if you have something that you want to share about your journey in the military, please do. My journey is a lot like many others. There's other people that have done just what I've done, and it's because they've applied some of the same principles and concepts that I talked about in this video. So take care. Thank you so much again for joining me, and Unsolicited Advice with Phil. Definitely all unsolicited advice I'm just spewing out here and throwing your way. But we can kick some of these thoughts around, and if I can help optimize your kid's life or your life, if you're in the military and you don't know what to do, or if you're not in a place where you want to be and you want to do something else, reach out to me and we can talk about options. This is just a way that we can express fruitful ideas. With that, I'm gonna sign off. Take care.